Hey folks, this is economics, and today we're going to go over a couple of things. We're going to start our first unit over scarcity. If you're joining us online, make sure that you go into Google Classroom and read iPencil. I am going to ask you some questions about that through Google Classroom later, so make sure you're ready to answer that. In order to keep up with today's lecture, I've posted under the title Scarcity on the materials for Google Classroom. Just go ahead and open up Scarcity, and you can keep up with us. All right. All right, folks. So as many of you big brain geniuses have already said, yes. So scarcity is the opposite of abundance. Thank you. And so how we deal with not having enough of stuff. So please keep in mind if there's typos on this or if it's really ugly, I didn't make it. So, you can forgive me. I'm a thief, not a creator. So scarcity is the topic of the day. So food for thought. I graduated from high school. How much more money do you make than someone who doesn't graduate over your lifetime? Well, there you have it. So about 10 grand a year. Now, I don't know when this came out. Is this true for everybody? No. But, I mean, it can be true. There are people who don't graduate from high school and then they still go on to college. It happens. You kind of limit yourself in some ways, though, because there's a lot of places that won't accept you. Like college
Chuck E. Cheese
can't work at Chuck E. Cheese. Can't be a Marine.
Did you know that the creator of Wendy's never graduated from high school, but then he wanted to set a better precedent. So he went back to high school just so you can make sure that whoever followed his footsteps went to high school, finished school.
How old was he? Because I remember him being old.
Probably did like the test where you just get your high school degree.
Oh, okay. So he wasn't like the 70-year-old in the back of the room. Okay.
He probably did that.
Okay.
But
So
he got rich.
yeah, Wendy's is big. All right, so more food for thought. If I graduated from college, how much more money we had and something like that. So here we have $30,000 a year. So college can help you out. Now that's not true for all things. Get yourself a couple degrees in history and you can still be poor. So it's okay. I also got an education one now on top of that. That's not helpful. But it might someday. But yeah, that's the thing about college, right? So you got to weigh the cost of these things. Like me, college was free, and I mean I made money off college since I was a veteran. I had a GI Bill, so I got checks, and also got like grant money and a little scholarship money to pay tuition. So I was like getting paid to go to college. And then even when the GI Bill money ran out, the state of Texas waived my tuition. And so I still got more grant money on top of that. So I made less, but I still got free money. So that's why I could do a degree like history. I wasn't going into massive super debt. So if I was paying for that myself, oh gosh. No. Not saying anything bad about people who do, but don't take a bunch of student loans for a job or a degree that won't pay it back. Please don't do that. All right, so what is economics? Definition. This is important. We haven't even defined economics yet, come to think of it. I mean, I kind of did. The study of how people satisfy their needs and wants. It's also the study of exchange, really. But yeah, like needs and wants, how you satisfy it? Well, it's usually because someone else has a good or a service that you need or want. We tend to use money to purchase our needs and wants. Bartering is trading one thing for another and making yourself relevant. So like, yeah, of course you can grow your own vegetable garden. I mean, things like that. Yeah.
Will you be posting these notes to the classroom?
Will I be? It's past tense. They're already up. Right now, yeah.
This is not my economics journal.
Okay. I forgive you. Hey, make your own decisions. Like, because you should though pay attention, because even if you choose to just use these and go over this later,
I'm not making study sets like through Quizlet or anything like that for this class. I could find some, but you could too. So,
Good one.
and it might be more in depth or less in depth than we don't know. But yeah, there are certain terms from the and you know what is economics? It's scarce. And yet, money, like modern money, I mean, money always represents a value. In old times, money was always something like gold or silver because it doesn't tarnish very easily. Coins tend to fall apart at a slower rate of speed than other things made of metal because they're not tools. They're something you keep and preserve, right? Yes.
What is making yourself?
It means like making something for yourself. So like if you have a need or a want, you just take care of it yourself, right? It's like I need or want rocks, so you go out in the yard and get rocks.
Okay.
I thought it that actually pushes innovation. Like even on the macro scale, think about it. During World War II, like I was saying the other day, America was like, "Hey, we need rubber," so they started synthesizing, making it themselves because they couldn't get it from where they usually got it from.
Well, Japanese did the same thing too. They don't have a lot of Japanese islands, especially when they started losing territory, didn't have a lot of oil. So they learned how to process shale into fuel to use for like their ships and stuff like that. So like scarcity can spark innovation, right? Hey, so once again, so like modern money is usually in paper form. It's supposed to represent specie. Specie is like a precious metal like gold or silver, depending on which one it's supposed to represent. Or like some people say that the US dollar doesn't represent money like precious metal anymore. It kind of represents trust. Trust that money can be used in exchange for something else. Which is kind of flimsy, because if you lose trust, or if another form of currency turns out to be more stable and more accepted, then the US dollar would probably just turn into nothing, right? So it becomes a promise to fiction. So there's kind of like a danger whenever you have a currency not based on like a precious metal, you know, so there's always that kind of danger. And of course, bartering, there's, the cool thing about bartering is if you're really good at something, like I mentioned the other day, like raising cattle, you could trade the best cattle for a good. But like the example I used, if you're trading, you have to trade the whole cow at a time, especially before refrigeration. So you're going to have, if you want salt, you have to trade a whole cow for a whole cow's worth of salt. And maybe you don't want a whole cow's worth of salt. Now you got to figure out what to do with this giant bag of salt. So then you got to barter some of that for something else. So there's weaknesses to that. What are needs? Needs are things that a person has to survive. Food, water, shelter, bare necessities. You know, like Baloo, yeah. So.
Shaw.
Of course, I mean, there's some things like if you think about it, where your wants turn into almost needs. So, like, how do you live in East Texas and have a job without a car? It's kind of hard, especially outside of the town.
Joey, how do you do it?
Because I'm just that freaking awesome, dude.
Just a water.
Joey looks like he has 380. Great, he does.
If he grew an afro, it looked like Danny Duncan.
How can I grow an afro?
Joey,
You have to go to get your
No, we
crown.
get waves.
All right, so what are wants? It's kind of like no duh, things you want that you don't need to survive. If you don't know what that means, I'm sorry. You should know that. You should just like know what a want, the difference between a want and need. I mean, really, it's like one of those terms. It's not complicated. It's more obvious than anything. So, example, car. Like I said, it's kind of hard to have a paying job and not a car, especially like if you don't have somebody you can depend on for a ride.
Oh, I was in an argument the other day with somebody from like that lives in New York, a record collector. I don't know
Oh,
how the
yeah,
conversation
yeah.
got there, but it was about like cars and buses and stuff. And I was like, well, you need a car.
Yeah.
And then they were like, no, you don't need a car. Like, you can just take the bus. I was like, well, there's no buses there. Like, when the town should get buses, you shouldn't need to
We
take
do
a
have
car.
buses.
And I'm like, well, how would you get a bus to take you literally everywhere? It wouldn't work in East Texas. And he's like, well, just, ride a bike. I'm like, you want me to ride a bike for like 3 hours to get to, school?
And that's the thing, yeah, like when I lived in Italy, there's public transportation all over the place, right? Like there's taxis if you really need a specific place that was off the beaten path. But there's also the buses, and the buses would go in city and out of the city.
Most,
You had the trains.
most big cities now have like scooters you can rent with the app.
They're
Rent
called
with the app.
burgers.
Okay,
Not
yeah,
just for.
And like Austin and San Antonio, it's really
It's
cool.
not
Okay, okay.
Yeah, I saw that in Corpus Christi.
Well, that's neat. That's neat. I mean, I'm not sure if I'd do it, but I'm not accultured enough to the city lifestyle. All right. So next one. Hey, guess what? This has to do with the title of the entire lecture: scarcity.
No kidding.
And even with our warm up for the day. So scarcity, a limited amount of resources to meet unlimited wants and needs. So like somebody gave the example of water. Oh my gosh. Yeah, we all need water and we need it forever.
And
Like there's a famous quote, I forgot what it was. It was like, millions have lived without love, but none have lived without water. I forgot who said that.
Quote. That really gives me hope.
It's from somebody. All right. So, but water can be limited in some places. There's some places like tropical islands, their only drinking water comes from rain every now and again, or coconuts. No, the ocean water will kill you.
What do you say? What?
Not if, look, I can drink ocean water, I'm just building it up.
Okay. Good luck with that.
Doing good.
But
I want some of that.
so yeah, like other things, scarcity can be really problematic with food supply. Like famine is a very normal thing throughout most of human history. Famine is one of the things that greatly reduced the Native American population before Christopher Columbus even got here.
Whoa,
Like,
you're
reduced
telling
it.
me it
They
wasn't
would've
all our
actually-
fault?
Well, I mean, okay,
There's no
so-
way. It was, we're just evil. It was all.
there's some historians that speculate before the mini ice age die-off in Americas that the numbers in America of Native Americans have been so great that it would have been really hard for Europeans to stay here.
Yeah.
But a lot of them died of starvation and cold
It
and
was
stuff.
kind of sad what happened with the dinosaurs. A lot of scientists believe that right before the final bullet that killed an asteroid that hit the
No, I
Yucatan,
was whispering.
right before that, volcanoes erupted everywhere, covering a lot of the ash. And being colder and colder was bad for
So,
cold-blooded reptiles.
so it was like 2020, but a little different. So, okay. So yeah, scarcity, but yeah, everything is scarce to some degree. Some things are so abundant, it's like they're not scarce. I mean, is sunlight scarce? Not really. But good breathable oxygen? Not really.
It's all about
But-
how scarce it is.
Yeah, I guess you could make that argument.
Yeah.
So why do we have scarcity? Because we are mortal. Okay, because we have unlimited wants and needs, but limited resources. This creates scarcity. So we need to make choices. Now, scarcity can be temporary or it can be permanent. Kind of like there's some things like uranium, pretty scarce. But they can fulfill a lot of useful roles and stuff like that. You know, like
Thorium's better.
but nobody's gonna do it. So what to predict? This has the choices that has to do with what to produce, how to produce it, and for whom to produce. So scarcity can be one of those things that can be artificially manipulated by governments or by whoever owns a certain commodity, right? So a monopoly can create scarcity. A government in control of a resource can create scarcity. And of course, things like a drought, weather, disease, and things like that. Like they've expected scarcity for, say, like fossil fuels for a long time, but unfortunately we've been able to find more and more of it. So we haven't, we've had periods of scarcity when it comes to fuel and stuff.
Today,
But never.
harder to do. So, like Flint, Michigan,
Mhm.
right? Whenever are they still having their whole water crisis thing?
I'm not sure if they do, but I do know it was pretty bad. Didn't it have to do with like mining and then like the water? Then they switched over to like a dirty water supply.
Yeah. So once that happened, everybody everywhere started sending free water.
Yeah.
So someone that bought up all the water couldn't really sell it.
Oh, I see.
So I don't think water would work today as it would have back then, like you said.
Oh.
Like whenever we have a hurricane, everybody sends water to everybody.
Well, that's true. Like, I remember whenever, what was it? Whenever Haiti was hit by that last really bad hurricane, you had people all around the world flooding to come in and help. We were building hospitals, churches, and all this stuff, and they flooded all this money in, but they didn't put in any money to help keep it up. So now Haiti has a bunch of hospitals and buildings and stuff like that that they just kind of nobody took care of, and they just gutted. Yeah, so it was kind of like they learned that like Iraq and Afghanistan's like that too. Wherever the U.S. government built a lot of these nice things like hospitals and schools and stuff like that, whenever the troops go away, I don't last very long after that.
Why not? Why
Because well, for one, it has to do with culture. It has to do with the education level too, but also it's unstable, and so a lot of people they just kind of once it kind of falls apart, they just kind of take what they can and get out of there and get back to life the way they were doing. Because I think it's possibly one of those fallacies that people have sometimes where you can take a culture and show them, hey, we think this is a better way. It might be in a lot of ways. That doesn't mean they're going to take it. I mean, all right, next one. So, causes of scarcity, personal perspective, your own feelings of what is needed or wanted. So, like, I'm starving, I'm broke. So, personal perspective has to do with just that. It's your perspective. This creates your desire to get things. So, like, I don't know, like the other day I really needed Chinese food. And so I didn't take no for an answer. I got some Chinese food.
After all this stuff going down, you want Chinese food?
And
I love that. I love to eat that.
Except that one guy, Wuhan, who pulled.
Yes, I still want Chinese food.
So I love to eat a nice juicy bat.
All right, so and you know, y'all go through this, you go through things like that. It could have to do with cravings. It could have with it could also have to do with cultural things. Like I really got to get myself some Jordans. So you forget some other things that you need to spend that money on and you get some Jordans instead. So that's one thing. So personal perspective, your own feelings. And so sometimes wants can feel like needs. Sometimes people will put their wants above their needs.
yes, desires are what drive people.
Well,
Also drive people insane.
it can, especially with like addiction, right? Because an addiction can become a point to where your needs and your wants are flipped on their head. Poor distribution of resources. Hey folks, start too long. Poor distribution of resources, not using your resources to their potential. So like this can have to do with like methodology. So back to water. Let's say you only have so much water in your country, but you think that it's really profitable to maybe use hydro mining. And what hydro mining is like you find out that there's a resource inside of like a hill or a small mountain. So you use pressurized water to just blast it apart, and then you kind of wash out the mush and get whatever you're trying to get out of it. The problem with that though is like whenever you wash away a hill or a mountain, there might be other things in there that are dangerous,
Arsenic.
like
lead.
lead, arsenic. You're right, and it will go down with your drinking water, and bam, you just wasted your water on washing away the mountain to get the minerals out. But now you also pollute all this other water, so the villagers are like, all of a sudden their children are being born with like intelligence disorders. People are dying of kidney failure and stuff like that. You know, no, not superpowers like super.
Well, they're,
That's
they can
super
dare
bad.
you, you know?
No, that's you don't. If you drink dirty water in a third world country, you're not going to get better for it. I'm sorry, it doesn't work. You get worse. All right, so you see here, yeah, they got. I don't have enough money for college, but I have to have parent $200. I mean, come on, man, just go Goodwill, right? All right,
Get Michelle stuff.
causes of scarcity. Rapid increase in demand. A sudden rush to use resources can cause a shortage. So yeah, Tickle Me Elmo. Yeah, those things were sold out. People like, I remember on the news, people were getting into fist fights over Tickle Me Elmos.
What a lovely time to be alive.
Ah,
And
yeah.
you totally deck an old lady over at Tickle Me Elmo.
Or a Beanie Baby. Or an Xbox One. Everybody's gonna have that first Xbox. Gosh, this must be old.
God.
But it had iPads. It couldn't be like super old. Well, I mean, I don't know. Like this was especially, hey guys, especially the first few iPhones. Whenever they came out, people were really crazy about those. Like the first iPhones.
I remember going to the Apple store before everyone had iPhones. And like my mom bought a laptop and it was just crazy.
I remember.
No, it wasn't like that. It was just like, it was
A lot
so
of people?
different then and now like it's
Yeah.
very common.
Well, Macintosh used to just be for like, I don't know, hipsters, right? Like people would just wanted a different kind of computer.
Yeah.
And so not that many people got them. But now it's like Apple's big. Like I've never liked Apple because I just don't get it. Like,
But like, I still remember when our parents had like Blackberries and like
oh yeah.
stuff like that.
I kind of skipped that. I had a flip phone and then I went to a smartphone.
Yeah, me too.
My mom has a big word.
All right.
I have a pager. But my mom has a
Hey folks, I think we're gonna stop here. We'll pick up with ways we deal with scarcity later. So that's going to end it for today's lecture. So if you're joining us on the live stream, make sure you pick back up at 11:45 on Thursday. That's our next B day. And so we only have 2 classes this whole entire week. But yes, once again, make sure you look over the notes and also read iPencil. So, bye. Hold up.